Today is July the 12th. Why is being a Christian so hard? Let's find out together as we study God's Word. Today we wrap up the first meta command of Jesus, be saved. And we're going to look at two commands. The first of them is come. Come to me. Now, this is something that Jesus says fairly frequently. In, for example, Matthew 19:14, parents are bringing children to Jesus so he can bless them. The disciples try to stop them because, of course, Jesus is an important fellow. He doesn't have time for children. And Jesus stops what he's doing and he says, let the children come to me. Don't stop them. Let the children come. The don't stop them we see again in John 12:7, when the woman comes to Jesus to, again, interrupt him at a meal, but she wants to anoint him with perfume. They try to stop her, and Jesus says, leave her alone. Don't stop her, literally. In Luke 19, the story of Zacchaeus being a short man, wanted to see Jesus. He climbs into a tree to be able to catch a glimpse of Jesus. Jesus then goes right to the tree and he says, Zacchaeus, come. And he invited himself to Zacchaeus' house. But the passage that I really wanted to spend the most time on today is in Matthew chapter 11, verse 28. This contains both the first and the second command that we're going to look at today. The story actually begins in verse 25, Matthew 11:25. At that time, Jesus prayed this prayer. O Father, Lord of heaven and earth, thank you for hiding these things from those who think themselves wise and clever, and for revealing them to the childlike. Yes, Father, it pleased you to do it this way. Then Jesus apparently looks at the crowd and says, my Father has entrusted everything to me. No one truly knows the Son except the Father. No one truly knows the Father except the Son, and those to whom the Son chooses to reveal him. And then we come to the part. Jesus then said to the crowd, come to me, all you who are weary and carry heavy burdens, and I will give you rest. Take my yoke upon you. And there's the second command. Let me teach you, because I'm humble and gentle at heart. You'll find rest for your souls, for my yoke is easy to bear, and the burden I give you is light. Now, we started this devotional with the question, why is being a Christian so hard? Jesus, at first glance, appears to be saying something very different here. He says, my yoke is easy. But is it? Jesus is actually talking about a fairly common metaphor used in Judaism, in which the law is referred to as a yoke. Now, being who we are and living when we do, we might see yokes in pictures, but we don't have much of an occasion to use a yoke. A yoke is what attaches the farming instrument, typically a plow, to an ox or a donkey. A yoke would go over the animal's head, and the farming instrument would be affixed then to the yoke. The Jews referred to the law as their yoke, something that was attached to them so that they could fulfill God's purpose. But in their minds, the yoke was difficult. A poor fitting yoke could injure an ox. It could wear on the ox, cause sores, which would make it difficult for the animal to pull whatever he was pulling. The yoke, as the law, was a burden. The Jews considered it a heavy burden. Let me read to you here from William Barclay's commentary on Matthew. He says there is a kind of rueful parable put into the mouth of Korah, which shows just how binding and constricting and burdensome and impossible the demands of the law could be. And here he quotes, "There was a poor widow in my neighborhood who had 2 daughters in a field. When she began to plow, Moses," that is the book of the law, Moses said, "You must not plow with an ox and an ass together." When she began to sow, he said, "You must not sow your field with mixed seed." All of this comes straight from Moses' law. When she began to reap and to make stacks of corn, he said, "Don't take the gleaning or what you forget or the corners." These were parts of the field that were to be left for the poor. She began to thresh, and he said, "Give me the heave offering and the first and the second tithe." She accepted the ordinance and she gave them all to him. So what did the poor woman do then? Well, she sold her field and she bought 2 sheep to clothe herself from their fleece, to have profit from their young. When they bore their young, Aaron, now this is the demands of the sacrifice of the temple, came and said, "Give me the firstborn." So she accepted the decision. She gave them to him. And when shearing time came, she sheared them. Aaron came and said, "Give me the first fruit of the fleece." She thought, "I can't stand up against this man. I'll slaughter the sheep and at least eat them." Then Aaron came and said, "Give me the shoulder and the 2 cheeks and the maw." These were offerings to be given to the priest. Then she said, "Even when I've killed them, I'm not safe from you. Behold, they shall be devoted, korban." Then Aaron said, "In that case, they belong entirely to me." He took them and went away and left her weeping with her 2 daughters. The point of this parable is that the continual demands of the law are difficult to follow. Now, Jesus says, if you are burdened, if you are weary, if the law has become more than you can bear, come to me. My yoke is easy. What he literally says is, my yoke fits well. Now, Jesus is a carpenter, and one of the things that he would have made as a carpenter are ox yokes. And it would be a very, very profitable business to be able to tailor make an ox yoke so that it fits a particular ox perfectly, so that when he pulls, The weight is evenly distributed, and there is no sores developing on the ox. Jesus says, my yoke fits well. It's not that there is no yoke. It's that God's commandments to us, first of all, are for our good, and if we obey them, they result in blessing for us. And secondly, God's specific commands to us, what He wants us to do in the church and in our community, are fueled by the gifts that He gives us. He tailor makes our call to fit the gifts that He's given us. If you're tired, if you're weary, if you're burdened, come to Jesus. The commands that He has actually result in blessing. And the tasks that He will give you to do are tailor-made to the way God has wired you. So, is your yoke easy today? If it's not, if it's a burden, you're doing something wrong. You're trying to do things that you weren't prepared to do. Find out what that is and get about doing that. Like, follow, and subscribe to this devotional on whatever platform you use to listen to it. Email us your questions at questions@becomehope.com. Tomorrow, we'll ask, what did Jesus say about racism?